and welcome. This is Dr. Nelson Garais. I am full-time staff here at the Alexandria campus, and this is HCA520 7AX. Now it says, like 1 to 6, but all three of us agreed that, and I believe there's like one more student, but she'll be meeting me at 1, but that's all right. And you guys, our typical meeting time will be here at 6 p.m. Thursdays for this week and over the next 9 weeks after. Now, let us now jump right in and look at the syllabus, if it's cooperating with us today. Which it may or may not. You gotta love technology.
Great when it works, sir.
Yeah. So I'm an old school guy. I still like the classroom and I still like the whiteboard. But we got to change to the times, and it's not working for us. So I'll make a separate video because Legal Eagle, we can't continue with the class without knowing the rules, but you guys are graduate students, so you guys know the rules. And for those of you who are already in healthcare, on time is late. So, but we still have a late policy, and the late policy still will adhere as follows. And then I'll also go over how the modules are to go. There are 5 modules over the course of this 10 weeks. So what are we doing? What is the purpose of all of this? Health information systems. And I don't know if, good evening, Ms. Monfort. Welcome. I don't know you guys' background, but I'm just going to assume that you guys know stuff because this is graduate school, and I am definitely not going to talk down to you guys. So that everything in the healthcare world has a system, and information is golden, especially in healthcare. And right now, 62% of all data errors occur due to erroneous medical terminology and erroneous medical communication. And that falls under the realm of health information. And we know we need it for everything. We need it for the patient scheduling, billing. By meaning of interoperability is the different departments have to be able to speak to each other. And it's fortunate for you guys that I was not only a clinician, I was a physician and an internist in New York City for 6 years. I also was a medical assistant, medical biller, emergency medical technician. You name the job, I probably did it. And one of the things that I also did in billing, I was for a couple of years, Medicaid, Medicare arbitrator. So I do know and understand the financial and billing applications and the effects of the billing cycle on the health of a facility. And let's all be honest here. If the facility is not making money, it will not be able to service the area. And I've seen it firsthand in an urban environment, what happens when even the smallest doctor's office that goes down. It causes a lot of disruption within the healthcare of the community. Now, of course, all this information flying around, especially on the cloud, there is a lot of HIPAA issues that may occur. And if you're not familiar with the Health Information Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, you better get with it, because that is extremely important, and especially the accountability part of it. Over the years, when it first started, it didn't have a lot of bite to, the legislation didn't have a lot of bite to people who did violate HIPAA. Nowadays, this is very, very different. And last but not least, of course, electronic health records. So we'll be looking at systems. I wish we could say we would design a system from scratch, but we're not really going to do that. But it's more analyzation, data, and analyzation of data and analyzation of operations, and also how they affect day-to-day operations, and also from my point of view, how they also affect the clinical's perspective, actually helping patients and actually, getting people better. So there are 5 modules. You finish up the modules, of course, and this is what I'm always telling students, that you do the modules early, and each module is 2 weeks. You do them early. It gives me opportunity um, to give you feedback so that you can maximize your grade. And I'm not a grades guy. I really wouldn't care less, because honestly, there's a lot of people walking around with straight A's, especially my colleagues and who have the 2 letters MD at the end of their name, but they're not worth. What's worth is taking the information and actually using it and for actual application in the real world. And that's what I more care about, that we get out of this. And I'll be honest with you, this is not the most exciting topic in the world, but you can see just by this brief introduction that it's very important. And does anyone here have any MBA or finance background? Anybody on the call have any like finance background, or maybe that's what you do for a living? Anybody?
I recently completed the MBA program, sir, but no finance.
Oh, wonderful. So what was your concentration in MBA?
It was straight business
Oh,
administration.
it's just straight business. Well, it goes, mine is finance. My MBA is in finance. And yeah, I'm always making the relationship between, of course, the ethos of an institution, and does it actually deliver? And I can tell you, when you look at any hospitals or any facilities financials, it's telling. And it's telling because their systems work, their systems are adaptable, and they also, and this is a big one too, the confidentiality part, they also pay very, very close attention to compliance, regulatory compliance, because all of us who do work in the real world know that's a killer. So let's now jump right in. So what's module 1 and what do we got to do? Because I am not going to lecture you guys, because you guys are graduate students. I could, if you guys want, if you want to hang on and you want to hear and see my take on some of your chapters, sure. Another thing that I'm also open with, I want to get you guys immersed in it and do some stuff and then get back to me. And if no one has anything to talk about by next week, then I just go over what needs to get done, and good luck. Have a nice day. But if there's questions, or I may have some questions for you, if there's something interesting that came up in one of the tasks or discussions or lessons from week to week, yeah, we'll talk about it. But again, my job here is more of a facilitator and less than a lecturer. But if you're one of those people who like like that sage on a stage kind of thing, shoot me an email. My contact information is in the, if I go here, it's in your announcements, and it's also, you have Zoom login information, and it's also right here as well, right on the page. And my cell phone is the one that it's a business phone, so I look at that a lot. So text first, name, the class, issue, and if I got to call you, I'll call you. My office, I'm here pretty much Monday through Thursday, but I'm here sporadically, like a couple hours here, a couple hours there. And if I am on campus, I'm usually doing something, I'm usually doing like scut work, such as, cleaning up my lab and, doing inventory and doing that kind of thing. So I'm not really in my office. But if you're by chance you're on campus, shoot me a text, shoot me a call, and then if you catch me, we can talk. But we can also talk and do like quick Q&A and quick discussions on Zoom. So we can say, oh, Dr. Garais, this one thing's bothering me about the assignment. Okay, you got some time? Yeah, 4:30 or whatever random time, and we can go sign into Zoom on this particular Zoom ID, and we could go talk about that stuff. But again, I'd like for you guys to start digging into that stuff first. So this module 1, all of this stuff is due by the completion of week 2, which means the beginning of week 3. So what needs to be done? So if you look at this, completion of week 1, a rough draft for task. And what's the task? So if you look at this, click on the task. We are looking at 5 different trends here. And I know the formatting here is a little bit goofy, but the 5 trends are big data, telehealth, informatics, cybersecurity, and cloud storage. Is that 5 or 6? And integration of genomics or predictive modeling. You know what? Let's keep it to 5 because that's a little much. So big data, telehealth, informatics, what is that? 3, 4, and security, and kind of related to security, cloud storage and cloud-based EHR. And I believe Dr. Ostrander was the one who developed this particular course shell. It gave you some guiding questions, but you guys are seasoned players, so you modify the questions that you need to look at. And what we're looking at, it goes, and make sure that there is at least, for this particular assignment, at least 3 7th edition APA formatted citations, including in-text citation as well, and see it as 5 quick little research tidbits. I look at it this way: 200, 250 words each topic, and rough draft due my next week. But again, if you could say everything you need to say in 600 words, be my guest. But let's try not to be Sylvia Plath when we're giving me 3,000 page stuff to look at. But these are the things that you look at the technology, and then ask your expand and answer these questions. Like, for example, big data. So right now, let's pretend to be. I'll pretend to be a student, and I'm looking at big data. Anyone familiar with big data and can tell me where's this term? What is this? And what's in? Why should we care about it? Anybody?
I did a little bit of research when I was putting my discussion question together, and big data relies on the ability to detect patterns and to turn high volumes of data into actionable knowledge for precision medicine and decision makers. Oh, that's what I found.
Exactamundo. So why should we care about this? And does anyone have a real world example? Anybody else? If not, I can give you one, but I'd like to give opportunity to the gallery first. Anyone why would we care about sifting through everyone's data? Why would I care about that?
I would go back to what she said. I'm assuming that was Nicola that said that. Mm-hmm. I would go back to the data itself, sir, and specifically with any entity or agency as to how to drive forward, utilizing the trends that we find through there to guide or steer the business in the direction either to meet the demand.
So give me an example. Give me a specific example. Why would I be borderlining, violating your privacy in order to find a specific trend? And it could be something in the business world, or it could be something in the healthcare world. Like, why are algorithms so big now? Why do we want that? And you could also relate it into healthcare. You know, why?
Cost, finances.
Yeah, cost cutting. That's one.
Yeah.
Because those of you at MBA, anyone going for their black belt in Six Sigma, you should. Because if you're getting into healthcare, you guys know lean management, yes? Do more with less. So here's a specific example. I know for a fact Inova has algorithms for high-risk patients, especially falls. Now, isn't it neat that I could run all my data of every single patient that I currently have, and it will spit me out a list of names that people who most likely will fall? Wouldn't that be neat, so that I can now tell the nursing staff, hey, pay attention to Miss Susan over there. She has a 38% chance that she will have a fall incident in the next 5 days. And don't you think that will also benefit all of our other metrics, right? Patient satisfaction, patient safety. And aren't those the things that we decide on what's a good hospital or what's a bad hospital? There's a reason why Inova has some ridiculous patient satisfaction rate, like 99.5, something stupid like that, because they're using our information to essentially do the job of clinicians. What before we used to just do what? You know, you kind of figure it out and you kind of like eyeball it. But nowadays, we don't make decisions without actual metrics. And those of you who have previous experience with business administration and masters of business administration, you guys know this. Anyone here like a private business owner? Anybody? Nope. I'm the only one. I'm the only one stupid enough to put my money and risk all my money. Well, as a private business owner, right? It gets very emotional because that's your baby. And the same thing for you guys. You'll be heading up a department one day, and that's your baby, that's your department. And how are you going to make it grow? How are you going to protect it? Well, big data, monitoring your EHR, right? Looking at your health informatics. Here's also another thing. Did you guys know that you don't go to the hospital that's the cheapest or the closest to you? People in general do not go to the hospital that's the cheapest or the one closest to them. They go to the hospital that they were marketed to. And that's very interesting because I found that interesting because I do the same thing and I didn't even know it. Regarding marketing, a wonderful, wonderful book. You could either read the Disney Manual of Operations or lovely quick read. I forgot who's the author. It's called Fast Food Nation. And it's about how we are marketed. You ever just eat McDonald's because you feel like eating McDonald's? Not really because you're hungry. There's a reason. You got suckered. You got marketed to. I did a wonderful, well, to me, it was a wonderful paper. To my professor, I thought it was a B paper, but that's just me. I did a paper on how the buffet industry plays with us regarding how it forces us to overeat, how it goes. And I had direct evidence on, they actually had metrics in Vegas. You know, when you go to a buffet, they actually have metrics on timings on the size of the plate, how much it goes, how many grams does a particular person. Did you ever wonder like how they make the decisions on what to put out that night, or what's good, or what sells? And I found that very interesting. And as a personal business owner, I'm always looking out my metrics, and I'm always looking out. So that's what we're looking for when you're breaking this stuff down. You're looking for, of course, an introduction. Give me your definitions, and give me 2021 if you can. late 2020 at the most, because remember, when we're talking about trends, you're talking about what's happening right now. And for those of us in business, it's not August, it's already almost
October.
To us, it's what, the end of the third quarter.
Right.
It's not
Getting a new fiscal
business
year.
people don't see things in months and days, we see in quarters, and we see and so it's the year is almost is 3/4 of a way done. And for many people who are doing their financial projections, it's done by September, honestly. Why do you think a lot of HR and a lot of financial planning is done in September? Why do you think many of you, when you have your, what do you call that? Your yearly evaluation is in September, October? There's a reason. It's when we redo our budget and the budget gets approved. So that's the kind of things that I'm looking for. And if you start and do your draft early, I know the draft is due next week, but if you start and do your draft like before the end of the weekend, I can get some feedback to you, and then you modify it, and I'll max out your grade. I don't mind giving out all hundreds. I actually want to. So if you see your draft is like getting an 80 or an 82 or whatever, I'm also going to put in a rubric out in announcements so that we know exactly how I cut points. Okay. So that, anyone have any questions on the task? So the draft. So your first level of thoughts, and those of us who are professional writers, which I also am, it takes several drafts, but we're only asking for one draft due next week, and then the final due by the end of week 2, which is the beginning of week 3. Anyone questions on how we're going to look at this this task?
Dr. Garais, since I don't have access to this yet, I'm sure you're tracking the emails.
I'm gonna and also what's going on with that? Do you want me just to register you?
Sure, if somebody can.
Let me do it, because Dr. Hamida is they're asking her to do 1,000,002 things all at once. And I'm just sharing. It's not fair. So let me register you, and then I'll give her a call. But in the interim, if I can't register you tonight for whatever reason, I will I'll screenshot it, or you can watch the video, pause it, and it's all here because I recorded everything. Either way, but let me try to get you. Let me write that down. Put that note.
Yeah, so they're trying to remove the 500 course.
So you want to drop the 500 course?
Yes, sir. Please.
Well, let me see if I can just at least add this 520. Okay. And of course, I'll CC her on it so she knows what's up. But they have her. It's like I said, I'm sharing. They have her and I alone moving all the laboratory equipment by ourselves, and that's all day tomorrow. And we've been doing it since last week. And my question was like, how am I supposed to do my other stuff, like the important things like teaching? Would be nice, but it's all right. That's why they hire MDs. We're used to the abuse. We love it. We actually thrive on it. So that's rough draft is due by the completion of week 1. And for us, it's what? Next week, August 12 by 6 p.m. I want that rough draft. Now, at the completion of week 2, right, everyone should have, we've already been going our back and forth, unless it's the most beautiful thing that I've seen. And I said, you don't have to do anything on your rough draft. That's good. Here's your 100, move on with your day. We could do that. But come on, there's going to be some little stuff you're going to have to do, and it'll be a nice back and forth. And that's actually the real true writing process, that back and forth. Now, so at the completion of week 2, that's the final. And what are we doing for the discussion? The discussion, of course, you watch this TED Talk, and I'm not a fan of TED Talks. I don't know how they get these people and if they check their credentials, for heaven's sakes, but it is what it is. This is what the curriculum committee chose. So you watch this video, and does anyone know about active listening? The technique of active listening. Anyone ever heard that before? No, 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 no. Well, I admit I am boring. Everything I'm talking about, I'm sure you guys are tired. It's the end of the day. It's sounding like Charlie Brown, like wah, 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 wah. Yes, I agree. Right. That's why I'm more about a face to face, so at least I could gauge. And you could be falling asleep. I would know. Right. But active listening is knowing your goal, and it's like partial listening. Like those of you who are parents, don't you like you partial listen to your kids? You just get the gist of it, and then when something exciting or juicy happens, then your antenna pops up, and then you're, oh, what did you just say? Like, "Hey, I'm going to Davey's house," and it's the same thing in any lecture. It's also the same thing in any video. So before you look at the video, you ask yourself, role of technology, right? And impact, what actually we were talking about it. And we're going to have this case hospital, Mercy Hospital. How you have to also go back to that and look at that case. We're going to look at it in a minute in our lesson for today. Look at that and then apply to it. So every time the person used to be on wah, 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 then you hear, oh, technology. I'm going to write that down. Then you could research impact, or maybe they said something about impact, and then you put an arrow on the scrap piece of paper, and then ask yourself, what does that have to do with Mercy Hospital? And you can now, I guess, 250 to 400 words, and of course, a very organized introduction, body, and conclusion. And I only need for next week your initial thoughts. No, don't answer each other, just your initial thoughts on discussion one. And then next week, on week 2 to week 3, then we start replying to each other. Now, I'm not sure if you guys, and here's what I was going over earlier today. Make sure, of course, when you hand in assignments, please, I need to see your name, the class, and of course the date. And don't send me document 12. Send me something like in a similar format like this, so I can identify who you are and what class it is, technology. Now, when you're looking at any assignment or when you're doing a discussion is no different than any mini paper that you will ever have to do, even though it's 250 words, 300 words, 400 words. Because it has to have some structure. Well, not some, it has to have a lot of structure. And everything you ever read, you think about it, it's an introduction, there's a body, and there's a summary. So in the introduction, of course, you have your questions or your goals. And then you could put down in your introduction, because you guys have knowledge, you guys are already graduate students. You have a whole plethora of undergraduate and even graduate experiences that you could actually talk about this subject. Define your definitions and give your opinion based on your preconceptions. Then in your body, you present the evidence, of course, something .org, .edu, either a medical school or a nursing school, or a .org, like a hospital. Again, late 2020, 2021, keep it relevant, keep it new. In-text citation, meaning to say is refer back to the actual evidence that you're talking about, according to the NIH, this, that, and the other thing. And then match it up to your preconceptions. Does it match your preconceptions? Does it match your opinion? And in your summary, if it does, then you have yourself an argument. In debate, there's something called planks. And planks are pieces of wood, right? So your evidence are pieces of wood to help keep you standing. And that's called your platform, something you stand on. And the planks are the evidence. So I'm not saying to get, 8 citations, 9 citations, or whatever, but I'm saying choose evidence that gives a strong foundation to your opinion and your preconceptions, and all of your education prior to it. Have some evidence, because we all know, watching the news and watching everything that's going around with the pandemic, there is so much no evidence, or the misshapen use of evidence. A classic example. 2 nights ago, I was watching CNN, which is CNN or any news outlet, even the Times or Boston Globe. They're all function is to sell papers. So I am not a fan of news outlets. And this one particular, she was an ICU nurse. They really didn't give her title. And the bizarre thing, she had like purple hair, which those of us who are in clinical world in healthcare, it's okay to be to be an individual, but for most clinicians, you have to be very conservative because you don't know who your patient is. And again, like I mentioned, preconceptions. Would you believe, you saw my picture, I grew up in New York City. So would you believe I had piercings and blonde hair when I was in undergrad? But I got into the clinical world. What happened? All of that had to go away. Well, and then I got to wear the monkey suit. You got to wear, your tie, and especially internal medicine. But if you look at her evidence, she was only talking about Tennessee and how ICU admissions were ramping up. And then she was talking about how there's going to be a surge in this country. Now, okay, you have a surge in the state of Tennessee. Where is your national data that's telling me that surge will spread? And also, the data is incomplete. And coincidentally, I have a cousin who runs a laboratory in a tertiary hospital. It's a rather large hospital in Tennessee. And I asked him, and I go, "Is this true what this lady said?" She goes, "Yeah, ICU's up, but we just had a meeting on it, and once the vaccinations go up and match everything, if he's not excited, and he's in lab medicine, so he knows exactly how many people to the exact test is positive for COVID, and in the situations and the diagnosis codes related to it." So I asked him, like, "Hey, what's going on?" So then now it skews the evidence. And then again, talking about one high-risk place versus the 49 other contiguous states. So that's the thing you got to be aware of when you're looking at evidence. Okay. And also be aware of your own preconceptions. My thing about the summary is I love when I'm proven wrong. That's why I try to get so many different viewpoints. That's why I'm always looking, like, if someone says something to me that I don't believe, I will delve into what they call in legal jargon is the con argument. And the con argument is let's say, for example, I love apples, right? And I hate oranges. Therefore, I will tackle the con argument on how much I love oranges or how much other people love oranges. So I can see from their perspective. And these days, there's a lot of people doing that. But in the medical world, we're always doing that. We're always checking the other side of the coin. And by the way, in medicine so complex, there could be a multitude of sides. I mean, it's not a coin. It's not yes or no. It's not is masks good, mask bad, vaccine good, vaccine bad. No, it's multi-systemic and it's multifactorial, and it's more like a dodecahedron, that crazy shape. It's got 12 sides. So that's how you look at evidence and how you look at things and challenge your preconceptions. And again, right, if I got some comments on stuff and then you comment back and then fix what you need to fix, I'm okay with giving you full credit for everything. I don't care if it goes all of you got A's or all of you got B's. That's not my function here. My function here is to help show you guys other aspects of not only education but your professional world. So does anyone have any questions on how you are to do the discussion? And remember, the discussion due for next week is only your primary post. And then next week we'll talk about how to answer each other and how to not only properly and respectfully agree to disagree or agree with people, because you guys have seen posts where the answer to discussion one would be, oh, Miss So-and-so, I loved your post. I learned so much about it. Thank you very much. That's not how to answer posts. But how's this? How to answer the post? Miss So-and-so, I totally agree with your discussion regarding the role of technology and software in medicine. I also found this other article from March 2021 that talked about how it would also help this, that, and the other thing. That's how you answer. And we'll talk more about that next week. So does anyone have any question on how we're going to do the discussion? Going, gone, we're good? All righty. If no one says nothing, I will move on. No one says nothing. Goes to show you I knows my English. All righty. So let's look at lesson. Okay. So we are investigating this week. You see the theme, and this theme is, what's new. And of course, it's always data and technology. And we're going to be answering on those, why do I need it? And you could see, why do I need it in the real world? Finance, billing. How do I market to patient demographics? When I was an office manager, my physician didn't want to do Saturday weekend hours because, I don't know, no one wants to work on the weekend. But I looked at our patients and where they work and how they work and when they came in. We started doing Saturday mornings and we increased our profit at least by 15%. And if we increase our profit, we can grow, we can get we can get another nurse, we can get another medical assistant and grow our business. And not only grow the business, have the capability to have more hours and serve the public better. Poster of technology, we're not going to do that. But you could now see how there's a theme to what we're doing. So there's a set of tools and you click on there and you could also relate the thing that you're doing this week to these chapters. You could look through here and again, it's all on you, and then start asking yourself, for example, right? It goes, what kind of specific systems should I be using, right? In this essentials right here. And what I like is there a specific architecture and how do we do that? Now, again, you could sit here. Anyone have any sleeping disorders or having trouble sleeping? Anybody? No, I'm the only one. Well, you know what? I used to take 5 milligrams Ambien, not anymore. All I have to do is open one of these textbooks right here and then read it page per page. And it will kill you. You will be out like a light. My favorite to put me out to sleep is the Annals of Internal Medicine. I don't think I've ever made it past page 8. That's not what I'm telling you to do here when we say read chapters 1 through 7. When you're doing your research and you're answering your your tasks and things like that, you skim through it. Now, how do you skim? Or maybe you guys tell me. You guys know how to skim? Or like, they used to call it speed reading and things of that matter, right? Like, for example, there's a section for health informatics. I click on that. And when I look at it, you see this informatics, the other spheres, and you look up the objectives and then you ask yourself, which objective matches to what I was talking about in my tasks? And then what can you do? You just hop right to that part. And again, no, that's not the one I want. That's not the one I want. Didn't you guys ever wonder? And another technique, and this technique you don't get overnight. It's a skill set that that you pick up along the way. One of the techniques is you read the first couple of sentences and the last couple of sentences. And if it's not what you need, you move on. Because remember, I showed you that that format of writing There's always an introduction, there's always a body, and there's always some sort of summary, right? So the introduction and the summary should look like each other. So if you read this first part and read this last part and it's what you need, guess what? I'm going to read the rest of this paragraph. But if it isn't what I need, right, then I move on with my day. Like, let's say I'm talking about EHR. I'm looking at automation and nah, that's not what I want. But look at this, practical matter. Oh, EHR. Oh, what about EHR? Then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to really read that part. And that's the better way to instead of reading through everything. And anyone here a fan of notes, making their own notes? Anyone do that? Still do that? Anybody?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I just
notes,
did with a couple of them.
Yeah, notes are supposed to be short. Okay, I've had some other students who write a book that's longer than the actual book. And notes are only to be salient features that give you keywords that will spark whole concepts. And do you guys remember your concept maps when you were an undergraduate? Does anyone remember that? That's a better way to take notes, because a concept map, let me show you concept. For those of you who haven't done one in a while. It's more like this, where it sparks, an idea sparks another concept. So you got this set of concepts here, this set of concepts here, this set of concepts here. That's a better way to do it. And guess what? If you look at oopsies, isn't this what this is doing? It's already giving you what are the separate concepts. Let's say I'm not really too keen on informatics. I'm going to look up, I'm going to describe the informatics, and then, okay, now I know a little bit more about that. I'm going to go through all the stuff that's pertaining to me and what I need to learn and what I need to talk about. Okay, so when you see this, like read this, all these chapters, read this, all this, I'm not saying to read it verbatim. You look at it, you scan it, and then you pick and choose the things that you need, and then that's how you build a very solid what do you call that? Very solid tasks and solid discussions. And also, like I said, I'll give all your A's, I'll give all B's. There's gold in here, but you got to mine for it. And there's interesting things in there, and you got to mine for it and look for it. Because let's say you're not going to be a software engineer, or you're not going to be a software architect, but all of us, hopefully one day, you guys are going to be administrators. You are architects of systems. And isn't that what software is? It's just a bunch of instructions. And isn't that what JCO looks at us, the Joint Commission? They look at, do we follow our instructions to the letter of the law, right? And so looking at how this is all goes, it's going to help. It's going to directly help you. And how many times have I, when I used to be in the corporate world, they used to have these so-called efficiency experts, but they would tell me the same thing. They look at, and if you look at the word architecture, you look at the word archetype. An archetype is like, it's like profiling. Like this type of patient. So I have a smoker / hypertensive / potentially diabetic patient. So I'm going to go down this pathway, and I'm going to treat, and that's how the system works. I'm going to treat that patient a certain way. Oh, I have this other patient that has a history of kidney dysfunction and also a family history. So I'm going to go down that way. And isn't that what software does? If any of you had any, maybe learn some basic programming, maybe in your computer science class, right? Remember if-then statements? If this is going on, then I'm going to do this. If that is going on, then I'm going to do this, but in a more complex manner. And it's spider webs, just like that thing we showed. And that is your future job. Your job is to lead people. Your job is not to do their job, but to tell them, when this happens, you should be doing these 3 things. When this happens, you should be doing these 4 things. My job as a manager is to look at the metrics on how these 3 things on my right and how these 4 things on my left are doing. And if they're not doing right, then I have to put it back on you, the worker bee. Hey, what's going on? And that's a real manager. Instead of, you guys have managers, right? And bosses who's like, hey, pick up the pace. Hey, give me 10% more, 10% more, 5% less, this, without telling me how. I hate leaders like that. I like leaders who are, okay, let's follow our program here. And this reading, albeit, and I have to admit, I read some of it. Ugh, it is boring, but there are tidbits in there. There's especially this key software architecture. Like again, I said, I'm a computer guy, so I do know how to code. And when I was reading this software architecture, it was boring. But I could admit there are tidbits in there that, especially even if you aren't a software engineer, it shows you how to think logically. How many of you here are good at math? Anybody? Anybody here good at math? No? So I'm the only one who took calculus 3 and Boolean algebra? No, I'm the only one?
Yep.
No? Okay. Well, let me tell you a quick story and I'll let you go, because you know I like to yap and I like to tell stories. I got into college because I write very well, right? Or correct. So I scored the minimum math score. I'm not sure if you can tell by my picture, but I'm Asian. I'm supposed to be awesome at math, but I am not. You know, I'm Filipino, which is kind of semi-Asian, right? But my sister's great at math, my mom's great, everyone's great at math, but I'm adult. I couldn't do my 6 times tables when I was a freshman in college. But then you're like, Dr. Garais, how'd you take all these other classes? How do you have a master's degree in physical chemistry? Which, by the way, master's degree in physical chemistry, you know when they say that's rocket science? That's rocket science. I'm the guy who figures out the fuel that goes into the shuttle, right? But how did I get from not being able to do my times tables to doing Boolean algebra, doing, calculus 3? Oh, by the way, calculus 2 and calculus 3 has no numbers in it. It's like all gobbledygook and letters and funky symbols. And the one thing that I learned is, because I did not have an organized mind and I let emotion rule my learning process. So of course I had a whole entire life of not being good at math. So I automatically assumed that that part of my brain didn't work. But now I'm in college and now they're telling me you either have to pass these math classes or we kick you out. It's that simple. So I got tutoring and I called for help. And the one incontrovertible truth that I learned about mathematics is that it is just simply an organized way of thinking, right? X plus Y equals Z, right? X squared plus Y squared equals Z squared. Pythagorean theorem, if you remember that, right? And who are the only weirdos in the world who know how to have organized thought? Mathematicians. Who are the next set of weirdos? Science people, like us, medical people. And looking at the way systems are designed, architecture, software, if this, then that, and also the adherence and the discipline to keep on track and to keep looking at the metrics. That kind of person, you guys know, does anyone know what's the #1 job right out of college that pays the most? Anybody? Anyone know the one job that pays the most per annum right out of undergraduate? It's data analytics, number cruncher, because of all the stuff that we're talking about. Because if a person can read a chart and read a report and figure out how to do stuff based on a system of thought, they are extremely valuable. And it took me more than 2 decades to figure out how to do that. But now I know how to do that. And now I got some stuff in my head. So what do you think I started doing? I'm going to start changing my investments. I'm going to start changing my business plans, right? And I'm going to start doing it by a system that's already been proven that somebody else does. Right? So, and if any of you want to know my system regarding real estate, I'm starting out. I'm cashing out one of my 401ks and I'm gonna do the business next month. So we'll see what's gonna happen. But hey, there's a reason why I went to school. I gotta use it, right? So with that said, everyone's here. I have all three of you. Is there any, is at this point where I am going to stop the recording. I'm going to